is Cinta, and I want to share a story I will never forget. A story that made me afraid to look into a mirror for the rest of my life. It all started when my mother and I moved into an old house on the outskirts of town. The house had been abandoned for years, but because it was cheap, my mother decided to buy it. I didn't mind, even though the place felt off. The walls were worn, the floors creaked, and the long hallways always seemed too quiet. While unpacking in my new bedroom on the second floor, I found an old mirror leaning against the wall. It was large, with a beautifully carved wooden frame. But there was something odd about it. The glass was cracked in the top right corner. I thought about getting rid of it, but for some reason I felt drawn to it, like it wanted me to keep it. That was my first mistake. The first night. That night, as I lay in bed, I noticed something strange. The air in my room felt colder than before. The light bulb flickered once, twice, and then I heard Ita whisper. A soft, almost inaudible sound. I turned my head towards the mirror. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But then, I saw something move, a shadow, a figure standing in the reflection just beyond the crack. My heart pounded. I forced myself to believe it was nothing, just a trick of the light. But that night, I slept with the blanket pulled over my head, too afraid to look at the mirror again. The second night. The next night, the fear returned. I woke up around 2 a.m. I don't know why, but the moment my eyes opened, I felt the urge to look at the mirror. That's when I saw her. A woman. She was standing inside the mirror, wearing a tattered white dress. Her long dark hair covered most of her face, but through the strands, I could see her mouth. She was smiling, a wide, unnatural grin, as if she was enjoying my fear. I gasped and bolted out of my bed, running to my mother's room. With my heart pounding in my chest, I told her everything. She followed me back to my room, her face concerned. But when she looked into the mirror, there was nothing. Just my own reflection staring back. She told me it was just a bad dream, that I was letting my imagination get the best of me. I wanted to believe her, but deep inside, I knew the truth. The third night, she moved. The third night was worse. I woke up again, but this time, I wasn't just looking at the mirror. I could hear something. A scratching sound. Squirk, squirk, squirk. It was coming from the mirror. I swallowed hard, my body frozen with fear. Slowly, I turned my gaze toward the glass. She was still there, but this time, she was closer. Her face was pressed against the cracked part of the mirror. Her smile was gone. Now she was whispering something, her lips moving silently. Then her hand moved. I watched in horror as her pale, bony fingers pushed against the crack. And then they started coming through. The mirror didn't shatter. It didn't break. Her fingers simply slipped through, as if the mirror was nothing but a thin layer of water. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. Her fingers stretched toward me, inching closer and closer. I wanted to move, to run, but my body wouldn't listen. Then the door to my room slammed open. My mother stood there, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. She saw it too. Without a second thought, she grabbed my wrist and yanked me out of the room. My breath was ragged, my entire body trembling as we ran down the hallway. But my mother didn't stop. She ran straight to the kitchen, grabbed a hammer, and stormed back into my room. I could barely think as I followed behind her, watching in shock as she lifted the hammer high above her head and... Crash! She smashed the mirror. Crash! Again. Crash! The glass shattered into 100 pieces, fragments flying across the floor. I held my breath, my eyes darting to the broken shards, and that's when I saw her. In the shattered reflection, the woman was still there, but now she was furious. Her face was twisted with rage, her eyes glaring straight at me before her image vanished. The room fell into silence. That night, my mother and I never spoke about what happened. The next morning, we collected every last shard of glass and threw them far away from the house. Since then, nothing strange has happened. But even now, I can't shake the feeling that she's still out there, watching, waiting. And the scariest thought of all? What if she finds another mirror and someone else to watch,